We've been putting out these videos now for a couple of months, and so far everything we've shown you has been in this half of the allotment. We've very recently put out a video which is a November allotment tour, where you'll be able to see everything that's growing. Almost everything in that video is still in the ground now, so check that out if you wish. One thing we haven't showed you though is the other half of the allotment that's currently behind camera. And the reason we haven't shown you that is because it's almost completely full of perennial vegetables. And perennials don't really come into their own until what's known as the hungry gap. So the hungry gap is the time of the year that's at the tail end of the growing season, typically April. In March you can still be harvesting some things, swedes, parsnips, and it's before the start of the next growing season, which is you can be harvesting things in May. First early potatoes, turnips, early beetroot, etc. So you've got this period in April where nothing much is available to harvest. So we intentionally filled that half of the allotment with perennials, so we have something to harvest, or things to harvest, in April. So we wanted to show you some of them today. December isn't really the normal time to be harvesting any of these crops we're about to show you, but you still can. And we're going to start with a perennial vegetable called Daubentons kale. Let's go and take a look. So Daubentons kale, one of the first things we planted when we took the allotment. We actually bought 6 of these off a lady on eBay, I think it was actually. A lot of these vegetables in our perennial side of the allotment come from a website called Incredible Vegetables. Fantastic website. If you are interested in perennials, do check that out. But these we bought from eBay, and what we received was 6 unrooted cuttings. When you buy Daubentons kale, they're either going to come rooted or not rooted, either in a pot or not. What we received, just to show you an example, was something like this. And we received 6 of these, but without the leaves. And this Daubentons kale, like most perennial kales, I think they don't make seed or run to flower. The way that you extend your crop is by taking cuttings, as I'm about to show you. As soon as I've de-leafed this, it might have came with a tiny leaf on top. So let's say something like that. And then all we did was take pots, fill it full of compost, and then literally just plant that into the pot with the compost in. This would have been February sometime. We found over the years that we planted these 5 years ago. We found over the years that taking cuttings in February, they'll root really well, and you can then take the new kale plant out the pots March, April time, and put it in the ground wherever you're going to plant your kale. So what's happened to the 6? There aren't 6 here anymore. Over the last couple of years, I think they've outcompeted each other, and all that remains are 2. But you can see how thick the stems are now. They're almost like tree trunks. How long do they last? Well, these have been in the ground 5 years. I'm not sure exactly how long they're going to last for, but they're still going strong. The leaves are green all year round, 12 months of the year. However, they are susceptible to the whitefly, and what we found is that in September, the whitefly damage is so bad, the leaves are inedible, completely inedible. So we remove all the leaves over a period of a couple of weeks, and that causes the plant to make new leaves. So all of these leaves you're seeing now are new growth since end of September. The leaves are naturally small this time of the year. It's still December, but come April, the leaves will be much bigger. Maybe sort of, they'll all be sort of this size, maybe bigger. And come summer, you know, the leaves are quite big. The yield is huge from this. The leaves have got a sort of a nutty taste. Absolutely delicious kale. I'm going to take a small one and just eat it there. I'm not going to take a big one. Yeah, you can put the small ones in salads, no problem. Absolutely delicious taste. Worth considering if you want to start a perennial side of your allotment or garden. This is a great one to go with. What we usually do in February is we take sort of 4 cuttings, like we just showed you before, and we'll put them in compost just in case these we don't know how long these are going to last. This is in their 5th year now, so how long do they last? 5, 10, 15 years? We don't know. So just in case these start to sort of lose their vigor a little bit and start to die off, we've got some backups which we can then plant in the ground and just keep these going forever, really. You know, you can just keep taking cuttings whenever you want, but we found February is a great time to do that. Let's move on to the next perennial vegetable, which is right next to us, and this is Egyptian walking onions. Okay, I'm gonna try and stand in a place where I can show you the different stages of these onions. It doesn't look like much is going on at the moment, but in summer the growth is huge. When we first bought these, we were given little bulbs. Egyptian walking onions, they don't make seeds like a lot of perennials. They don't make seeds. They make little bulbs, little onions. So that's what you'll get sent in the post if you buy these. And what you can do with these bulbs is you can either put them in the ground or you can put them in pots and wait for them to root and then plant them out. But they will divide underground. So you can plant, I'm just trying to look around here. No, I can't see any individual ones. You can plant one in the ground, let's say February, and by summer, that little bulb is going to have turned not only into a small onion. I would consider these more like shallots than onions. They don't make a huge bulb. They make more like a shallot. And what you're going to get in the ground are clumps of small onions. Now, what can you do with those clumps? Well, a few things. You can either leave them and let them do their thing, or you can pull them up, making sure the roots are still hanging down, and you can divide the onions. And with each onion, you can put the onion back in the ground, and you can extend your crop that way. If you were to do that, then each onion you plant will again divide underground. You can, of course, eat them. That's the whole point of growing them, right? What else could you do with them? Well, in summer, each onion is going to produce a green stalk. And on the top of that stalk, you're going to find more baby onions, just like what you bought the first time. You can do a few things with these onions. You can take them off the stalk and you can take them home and eat them like a small, really small onion. Or you can let the weight of the onions fall down to the ground. And those onions are going to put out small roots again and just root into the ground. Or you could take the clump of small onions off. You could divide the onions and you could again plant them in the ground and they will again grow into small onions. So you're constantly extending and dividing your crop. I'm just going to show you an example of what happens over summer. It's now December, so we're way past the point of them growing stalks, but you can see these brown stalks here. So right underneath here is an onion, and over summer it shot up this green stalk that used to be green, and on the top of this stalk were small onions. Now we just left this, and the weight of the onions, it's fallen to the ground, and you can see just here the onions that it produced and they are now rooting into the ground. I'm just going to let them do their thing. These stalks will just overwinter, they'll just rot and disappear. So I can see the clump here. I'm actually going to pull half up because they've actually landed near a clump that was already growing. You don't want too many growing together. A clump of 3 or 4 is about right. So here's a clump of 3 onions. Now, that's not much of a harvest. But take that home, cook with it. It's not going to give you much. But what you can do is just put it in the ground in a bare part of your bed. I'm just going to make a little hole with my finger, cover that up. It's as simple as that. You can see that the onions are already starting to make green shoots, so that they're already growing. They're absolutely incredible vegetable. The yield isn't massive, gonna be honest, and we do grow annual onions as well as these. So what can you harvest from these onions? You can harvest the bulb itself, that's in the ground. You can harvest the green shoots before the start of spring, as if they were spring onions. You can harvest the baby onions on top, again as small onions. You can divide them and replant them. You can lift them up and divide them, eat some and plant the rest. Absolutely amazing. One other thing I'm going to point out about this bed is that you can see lots of what maybe to you looks like weeds. This is actually another perennial vegetable that's self-seeded. We're going to come to that in just a sec. This is actually a perennial lettuce. Let's go and have a look at that now. Perennial lettuce. Ricardia poicrides. Am I saying that right? Probably not. But that's the official Latin, it sounds like, name of this perennial lettuce. We just call it perennial lettuce. We bought these seeds from Incredible Vegetables, actually, and it's a perennial lettuce. Very easy to germinate. We found that with these seeds, don't cover them. Just sow them on top of compost. Don't cover them, just light and a bit of warmth, and they'll germinate very easily, as we'll show you in just a second. So when to harvest these? Any time of the year, really. They are still shooting up stems now. On the end of these stems, perhaps this is a better example, just here. Oh, there's one here. You can see the yellow flower on the end. This is what lettuce does when it's flowering. They make yellow petals. Those petals will then open, and then slowly they'll disappear to be replaced with the seeds. Now, if you've never grown lettuce for seed before, think of a dandelion. A dandelion makes its yellow petals, and then after a while those yellow petals disappear, and what you're left with is like a translucent ball that's actually full of seeds. And the idea is that the wind will carry that ball of seeds off somewhere for it to root somewhere, and that's how it reproduces, the dandelion. Similar story with lettuce, and as we've just shown you in the perennial Egyptian walking onion bed, they're very easy self-seeders, very prolific. They're everywhere. Now, at the start we were pulling them up, but we just think to ourselves, why bother now? At the end of the day, it's free lettuce, or salad at least. It tastes like as you would expect a salad leaf to taste. This time of the year, maybe a bit more bitter than in summer, say. We've got these glass covers. We grow these in a raised bed, and if we get a severe frost, we'll put the glass covers on. It becomes like a cold frame then. Interestingly enough, we didn't actually sow any in this bed. We sowed them in this bed. and these flowered over summer, and we harvested some of the leaves, and the seeds have ended up in this bed. So everything you see here has grown by itself this year. And you can also see they're growing in the cracks of the paving slabs, they're growing in the beds over there, they're growing in the perennial onion beds. Now, we have just put out a video on what we're growing in the greenhouse over winter, and that includes lettuce, which we're harvesting at the moment. So for us, we're not going to harvest any of this perennial lettuce in December, but you could do. It's there as an option for you. And why don't we move on to the final perennial vegetable that we're going to show you today, and that's right next to us, and it's sea beet. This is actually our third year of trying to grow sea beet over winter. We originally ordered two plants from Incredible Vegetables again, and we planted them just here, one here and one here. This was in February, a few years ago. They did grow on to be great plants. By the end of autumn, we had big plants, as you see right now. They do flower over summer, so they did start to flower. The leaves naturally go a bit smaller, and they start to shoot up stalks with tiny little flowers on the end. What happened over winter, we have had harsh frosts here since we've had the allotment. This is our 5th year now. They didn't survive the winter, and these are supposed to stay green all over winter. They are hardy plant, all supposed to be. So they died off, and we sent Incredible Vegetables an email, and they were really nice about it. They sent us 2 more plants, which we promptly planted again in pretty much the same place. The same thing happened again. Over winter, they died off again. The stalks were brown. I mean, they weren't making any leaves at all, so we just cut them down again. Now, we've tried for a 3rd time. Now, this time we've just bought the seeds from eBay, actually. We just bought a packet of sea beet seeds, and we sowed them in February. The same as if you were sowing beetroot, really. They germinated really well. They grew on into nice, healthy looking plants. So for the 3rd time, we put them in the ground, and that's what you're seeing now. They're looking great. Now, this is the best they've looked this time of the year. It hasn't been that cold yet, but I think going into winter, these are going to be just fine. Sea beet you use as perennial spinach, basically. Saying perennial, we haven't actually been successful with this one yet, but this is looking good. So this is one of them. The second one is actually here, looking really small. Now this one was this size over summer. We had 2 the same size. It died off, and I don't know if you can see. By the way, all of this green this green covering is the perennial lettuce, again, self-seeded. But you can see the stalks, the brown stalks, actually. I mean, they're so rotted and dead, but it's still alive because it shot up these leaves here. So we're just going to leave that. What about this? That bit of the stalk, I don't want to pull it and pull the whole thing out. We're just going to leave that. We also sowed 4, or rather transplanted 4 into buckets, and that's what you're seeing here. We don't necessarily need 6 plants, but we thought we'd keep some in reserve just in case these 2 died in the ground again for the 3rd year running, which looks like one was going to, but I don't know, maybe that's going to come through. They do, as I've just mentioned, they do cook exactly like spinach. You just harvest the leaves like so, and you know, it's a great perennial spinach. Again, we would use this, everything we've shown you today, we would try and wait until April during the hungry gap, but it just shows you the options. If you wanted to, you could harvest this in December. There's no reason why not. In fact, now I've taken 3 leaves, I might as well do a little harvest and have some sea beet for lunch, maybe. What else can I tell you about sea beet? I think that's pretty much it. Oh, let me show you what's in this bucket here. So one of them, the leaves are purple. It's the same, it's come from the same seed packet, so maybe some are just purple and most of them are green, who knows. They're all looking quite small though, these leaves, compared to this one, which is looking massive. So if this one did die off over winter, we would probably dig a big hole and transplant this one into there. And then I think these two are looking the strongest by far out of them all. How long does sea beet last? Honestly, don't know. We haven't been growing perennial vegetables for that long to really know. We know that some perennial vegetables like asparagus, which we do also grow, that can give you a harvest for 20, 30, 40 years. And then other perennial vegetables are shorter life, maybe 2 or 3 years. Same with the Daubentons kale that we showed you. We're not sure of the lifespan of that. Is it 5, 10 years? Who knows? So we're expecting a few years out of this sea beet. We've still got the seeds if we need to resow anymore. What else can we tell you about sea beet? I think that's pretty much it, you know. So we've looked at 4 perennial vegetables today. For us, we would look to harvest them in April, but hopefully this has given you some ideas of what is possible to harvest in December if you so wish. And with all that being said, we're going to wrap it up for today, and we hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.